What's up? Alright, so check out some of your pelling video. And I'm going to cover a couple quick things. I didn't catch the whole 23 minutes, but watched about 9 minutes of it, and I have some quick pointers. Really like that you're asking yourself questions and working through the problem. Like, that is such a stellar way to learn new things. So tip top, keep doing that, never stop doing that. Don't even be afraid to do that while you're fighting. Like, that's another great way to grow. But so a couple of quick things. So my Pell specifically is a bob, which fortunate enough to have one is kind of expensive. But the thing I want to point out is how high I have him set. Like, I'm not a tall fighter, I'm only 5'8", and he's set to like 6'1". And I really like this because now when I'm pelling this in practice, I have to force myself to throw these reps at a higher angle than maybe the average height of a normal person is. However, most of the people I fight tend to be kind of tall. So now I have to throw this rep in a way that it's high, it's elevated. Looking at your Pell, I don't want to dog on it, but it seems like it's short. So now you're throwing this rep and you're practicing this rep at what seems to be like mid-chest, and that ends up being a little low. So keep in mind, if you can make some adjustments to a higher rep, you'll start practicing with better habits, and I think that'll yield positive results. I'm going to go kind of quick. Battery life is kind of low on the phone, so we'll see what we can get through. One question that you had asked was how far away I am. I noticed that, yeah, it seems like you're too close on some of these for sword side hip. The range is really important. So right now, I'm within about 3 feet of Bob. I'm not super far away or anything like that, but the sword is 3 feet, my arm, so maybe it's 4 feet, so give or take, right? So this is pretty close for me. I feel uncomfortable at this range because I know that my opponent can probably hit me. I'm not, again, like I said, a tall fighter. This is only a 34-inch sword, so I probably end up another half step back, and at this point, we're like a sword and a half away from the base of this thing, which is pretty far. But I can still hit him if I want to with very little effort. This is just a half step, it still reaches pec. This back foot's still in the same spot. That's not even a big lunge here, and I still have range to him. So you'll be surprised to see your range is much greater than it is. A simple demonstration of this is how far you can actually threaten somebody with your feet. We'll see if I can do this. I don't practice this enough. So this is probably 10 feet away from Bob, and I feel like I can still hit Bob from here. I wouldn't do it necessarily in the fight, but the demonstration purposes, the idea is that I'm here, I'm taking a step lunge, and I hit him in the middle of my sword from 10 feet away. So you can really close the distance, and when I throw that sword side hip, part of that question, I can do it more comfortably from here. I'm about half that distance now than I was before. And what I end up doing is this hides some of this because of the camera angle. Well, I'll do this with and without the shield so you can see both parts. Depending on what foot I want to lead, there's kind of different ways to do this. I'm just going to start with sword foot forward for this demonstration. I might be this far away, and what I end up doing for some of these combos is I will open with my fake from a range that's maybe the cusp of their range, just out of my range, but it seems big and threatening, and that's super important. So it ends up being something like a high sword shoulder, whether it's just this jab. In that jab, I've closed this nice step. I haven't even, my feet really haven't changed, it's slid forward into this, and I've closed this distance to where I have the ability to hit it. That's just on my fake. Now what ends up happening is I usually double fake, and then I can drop into sword side hip. So again, I'm pretty far away, and if you're going to Pell this, I recommend pelling it from out of range. And if it helps, you've done your combo, pop, and reset yourself super far back, wherever you think the cusp of their range is. And that's hard to get, but with time you'll understand. This is where I think I could get hit by this guy, so this is where I can. So anyways, I'll start my fake on here. I might go to a second fake up at the board shoulder. I bring my hand across, and I just kind of drop it on this hip and follow through back to guard. Okay, the full thing, out of here, hop back, boom, back to guard. So without the shield, kind of running through it, same idea. I fake, got into two things there, boom, boom. This motion across starts to make them believe like, oh, the first one was bullshit, so the second one must be the real shot. Their equipment comes up, sword side hip is there. My defense doesn't really get compromised too much. I kind of back in, right back to defense. Not really doing much with my arm. It's not a turn of my wrist. It's not from down here. It's not the dark side. It's not this angle. It's literally just ding, turn my body, boom. And I just rotated myself through this. And it goes to the same spot basically every single time. To address feeling like they're covered, I think you mentioned something like that, where you don't feel like that's going to be there. It's like magic. It really just ends up being open. You clearly are throwing a bomb board side shoulder, this big, meaty chop right now. Your opponent clearly respects that can hit them because their equipment is moving for you, which means that you're on the right track to making this work. And it's going to be as simple as, like, if you really just want to see the simplest version of this, you can just go about this far, halfway there, over, bam, bam, that little turn. And this is no footwork with this, okay? So like, let me add the footwork and do the thing for you, because I don't want you to pellet just the shot. If you just pellet the shot, it won't work. So you can just be here, boom, okay, no shield, boom. It's a little exaggerated, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be this big, but it's basically the steps to a simple version. You square it up with this dude, like 100% we're on center line. I've started my fake and I'm taking my step at about the same time. I know off center line, basically a head's width. People tend to rotate subconsciously. They're worried about this. I just bring my hand across, boom. And it's gonna roll right into it. Sword side hip. Okay. The board shoulder one's gonna say you're working on your little 3-hit combo. Not every part of that needs to be a real shot. Either the shot here, here, or even here can be a fake. Every one of those doesn't have to make contact to be effective. So you can even like fake throw into that cross if you want to, if you want to cross, or you can shoulder, fake, boom, fake, boom, boom. You can elbow fake this into that shoulder, just dropping your elbow down. You're in your guard, elbow, fire, boom. Doesn't take too much. Not sure how the battery life is doing, so it's a lot to cover. But you don't necessarily have to go to boom, boom, boom. You can even just like board shoulder, fake across into board shoulder. So that might look something like, and then some of this I'm just putting together right now just because we can string anything together into being cool combos, and then you practice it, you'll become proficient at it. So like it could be a real shot, like, you know, out of range here. Everything moves. I believe it's real. And come back with that and over. It's kind of that neat little boom. You can even come around to that ass wrap instead. Fade away with it. Right back to guard. To guard. Shoulder. To guard. And then you just start putting everything together as you put these things together. So, I spoke super fast about this, but don't feel like every shot has to always be the shot. Doesn't take much. You could walk up to your opponent in the very first fight and just, bam, big, ridiculous, way overdeveloped board shoulder shot, okay? The very first fight, pow. Now, I promise you, you come out and you go, the shield's gonna move, you can just drop it right to that hip. Just boop them. Doesn't take anything. The big motion can be make contact through. It's that soft hands thing you commented that watched that video. It's just the weight of my arm flying through these. I can muscle it in if I want. You just don't have to. When you start committing, putting all that shoulder and arm, and you're really trying to muscle this in there, you can't change the direction of the shot very easily. So you become totally committed
for me personally, I love it when the person's committed because I get to start doing crazy stuff with my shield. If you've watched a lot of the videos, I am sure you've seen me do something like, oh no, I've stepped here. Oh, here comes the board shoulder, and I've done something crazy like this. And I just start doing whatever. Or, oh no, it's an ass wrap. I just like, cool, step. All kinds of rules that you shouldn't break that I'm breaking because they were committed. So you don't want to get too caught up in trying to muscle it through. There's a time and a place. Not saying change your whole, whole style, your whole gimmick. Mix it in though. It can be tight little stuff, and you can go to a bomb one, or you just start big shoulders and fakes, and suddenly they respond, and you get to do stuff. I mean, this is kind of off topic here, and like I said, I didn't get to watch your whole video here, but I wanted to touch on some stuff while I had the assistance to do it. So, anyways, I hope this is helpful. I would, in closing, keep in mind that if you're going to Pell, find a distance that is maybe almost a little too extreme and figure out how to get into range and what that looks like. If that's faking and coming in, cool. That's what I would do. I would fight this guy really quite far away, unless I couldn't for some reason, if I didn't have the space, like the ring is small. Finally, see, outside of that, fight your Pell from far away, and don't be afraid to reset. Your Pell placement puts it against a wall, which means that it's going to be harder to practice some of the shots that I think could be really valuable for you, because it involves being able to rotate laterally in all these different directions. So if you have the ability to, it might be worth getting it a little more centralized so that you can work your way around your Pell. It'll keep you moving, it'll keep you moving your feet, and you'll know very easily if you're actually doing that, because like if I start here faced with Bob and I start my combo and I end up behind Bob, I clearly was moving laterally because I've ended up behind him, which is pretty wild. And then let's see, so boom boom, and then on your combos, not every shot has to be a real shot. You throw that nice combo, I promise you your friends that fight you are going to recognize that combo. Start finding ways to fake each part of that, and you'll start seeing some pretty cool stuff. The sword side hip is much easier, or the buckshot as you were calling it, which is pretty wild. It's basically just that. Just kind of turning your body through it, and it brings you back to guard. Every time you throw this underarm thing, the Skywalker kind of thing, throw it, you're back to guard. Pass wrap, back to guard. Oh, kind of tripped my foot there. Forward shoulder, back to guard. Sword side hip, back to guard. But I'm a very defensive-centric kind of fighter these days anyways, so it's real important. And then finding where your guard is. I had pointed out your sword being kind of out or forward, and now you can naturally bait some of that stuff, which might mean people throw at it, and it's a whole different video for another time. But typically, whether it's board foot forward, nice tight defense where they don't have a lot to throw at. Hopefully this shows very little of my body. Or sword foot forward, and again, still showing very little of my body and not letting too much be visible to begin with. Give them a few options, or purposely give them options so that you can take advantage of it later. Anyways, we're gonna call it there. Hopefully that was helpful. Appreciate it, man.